I have the great pleasure to moderate this last panel in the conference, but I hope we will be kind of the attractive point at the end of all these interesting events yesterday and today. This conference has been highly inspiring for me, and I hope we will keep this standard now. My great thanks go to Mr. Łukasz Nowak, who make it possible for us to come here. Our group here, the group of panelists and other people from PCG Academia, we have the pleasure to work at the Lewiatan Confederation EdTech section. The Confederation was one of the first institutions that trusted the initiative in the field of higher education, and it introduced this discussion into our board. So owing to the synergies and cooperation with all sorts of companies, K-12, higher education, we are now able to influence the system, and we are trying to promote solutions, technological solutions in the education. Madam Anna Marciniak from the National RD Center, she's not a member of our board, but I believe she is also, she's our friend here. We keep meeting in other groups as well, where the Lewiatan Confederation represents the universities and or other entities which develop their services and products and support the growth of digital competence and introduction of digitization to schools. But she's always very friendly when discussing our proposals. So our EdTech family is very happy with this cooperation.
We are in a specific times now, because on the one hand, 2014-2020 financial perspective is ending. Well, this is true. It's almost the end of 2023, but the EU financial perspective is coming to an end now. We are now picking its fruits, and we also have lots of experiences. We've had a lot of challenges and problems. The COVID-19 pandemic definitely was such a time where we needed to reformulate different plans or projects of the university, but it's also given us an impulse to be flexible in introducing changes in the projects. So I hope that on the one hand, we are going to summarize the previous financial perspective, 2014-20, but in the context of the new financial perspective, 2021-2024, we will be able to sum up the first experiences. We will be able to find out what positive things we can bring or learn from the previous financial perspective, and what should be changed, and what we should focus on in the context of universities. I think that you are full of inspiration. I'm sure that you will be willing to develop different areas at your universities, and the question is whether there will be possibilities to support that with the EU funds. I would like to ask a question to the audience. Who of you represents the university that uses or is planning to use EU funds? Do you have people like here? Yes, a big group of people. So we are in the right place now. So without further ado, let me ask Anna Marciniak to summarize the situation, to tell us what the 2014-2020 perspective gave us and where we are in the current financial perspective. Do we have more money or less money? Each financial perspective actually means a new opening. So what can we count on as far as the EU funds are concerned, and what new opportunities exist? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation. Let me start with money. So let me start with the allocation, because under the previous financial perspective, the power program that gave power to our university, the funds were higher. We had 1.3 billion euro available. Now, under the new financial perspective, we have not much more than, well, more or less 722 million euro available. So the funds are lower, but still I believe the funds are high enough to provide for most of the needs of universities. Of course, this is not an endless source of funds, because under the previous financial perspective, the universities got used to the fact that those who have been evaluated positively received the funds. Right now, the situation is not that simple. Probably universities waited for the additional money because actually there was a short break. The previous projects ended, were completed. Universities were waiting for the new financial perspective. But this time we have to realize that not all universities, even if the project application has been positively evaluated, does not necessarily mean that they will receive funds. Of course, certain savings will be necessary. We needed to give up certain things in the light of the limited funds. We want to organize it slightly differently from the subject matter point of view, because previously there was a separate priority for science and higher education. Right now, actually, there are two priorities. They may concern universities. One of them is skills. So this is not a domain-related priority. So here we can finance everything that is related to improving competence or skills of students, academic personnel, and people who would like to get retrained. Under a different priority, priority number 3, we will continue to support availability so that the university can become more accessible for people with handicaps or special needs. Of course, we are going to continue to support improvement of the educational offer, because no matter where we go, we want to improve the potential, strengthen the potential of our universities. So any projects created by universities should be targeted at the development of the university's potential. So we are going to focus on strengths of the universities. So whether we're thinking about new faculties to be opened or modification of educational programs to fit the market needs more, previously we had a different project. Support was targeted at young people. There were also third-age universities created. Right now, the European Commission wanted the actions to happen to focus on adults, not those who are active on the labor market, but generally speaking, people who are in the productive age. So there won't be any more support for the senior citizens or children. Another difference is that under the previous perspective, a lot of support was targeted at PhD students. Now the European Commission has decided that we cannot finance even those PhD theses that can be aimed at implementation. Only improvement of teaching skills can be financed. And also the area of university management, we've discussed that previously with Małgorzata and with universities, because universities wanted the university management area to get support in terms of software and, well, the different types of systems, etc. Well, it's not there under the current financial perspective. I'm not saying that no systems can be implemented, because whatever is aimed at, adding new faculties, for example, if these need to be supported by such systems in order to make the education more effective, yes, such software can be financed. But we would like to focus on cooperation with the external environment and also elimination of the phenomenon of dropout, when the young people end their education prematurely. We want to eliminate this phenomenon. We would like universities to analyze where the problem is, because the situation may be different in different universities, but we would like universities to analyze that, and then support can be directed accordingly. We know that there is an ELA system, which is financed by the Ministry of Education and Science. It can be used, but it may be that universities will also be willing to have such research. Then the systems to support that can be financed from the resources. Now, let me give the floor to Edyta Siuda from Kozminski University. Could you give us the perspective of a university? What we should pay special attention to when we compare the two perspectives? What mistakes to avoid based on the experience from the previous financial perspective? And also you can comment on what has been said. If you feel the need to refer to what other panelists have said, you're welcome to do so. Thank you very much, Małgorzata, for giving the floor to me. I believe that we have so much experience as the university. 50 minutes that we have for the panel discussion might be too short to discuss that. I represent Kozminski University, and I have prepared myself to this meeting. I talked to other universities about their experience and about their expectations towards the new financial perspective. And I hope we will have a chance to say more on that in the next part of the panel discussion. I'm very happy that we have very many representatives of universities, and I believe that we all have similar experience. That financial perspective was very interesting in the context of many opportunities offered to universities. And I agree to what Anna has said, that we've had lots of possibilities offered not only by Power program and the intermediary authority, that is the National Center for Research and Development. I don't want to mention amounts here. I believe that the scope of the interventions was of great importance. The projects that we implemented under the previous perspective were interesting. There have been a lot of difficulties and challenges. I actually prefer talking about challenges rather than problems. COVID-19 pandemic, of course, it was a challenge. It forced us to change our procedures. We needed to reformulate our project approach. We, as the university, have implemented several projects under the previous financial perspective. We continue these studies or the research, and the money that we've received enabled us to implement certain change. Each time we're thinking whether we should apply for funds we ask ourselves the question whether this would enable us to operationalize the strategy of development of the university. We, of course, conduct a needs diagnosis. So we get feedback from the students, from the teachers and managers of universities, and we decide whether a given competition is the right one for us or not. And under the previous financial perspective, what turned out to be important were the integrated programs. They were a big challenge, and there was some risks involved. Those programs were costly, and in such a case, there is always an additional risk factor. But from my perspective, the multitude of actions to be taken and the fact that you could finance any sphere of the operation of the university, all that was very valuable. Well, during COVID-19 pandemic, we needed to reformulate our actions. It happened so that most of the projects were implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic, but there were also competitions which really were very useful for us and helped us solve certain problems, like broadly understood digitization, switching to remote work, remote learning systems, digitization of certain processes, or the accessible university competition. It was very important to offer psychological support to the students and academic workers. And there was a time when that was a really big challenge. So we have lots of positive experience, not so much negative experience. But what I would like to emphasize as a representative of a university is that there have been competitions organized that responded to our needs, and we could solve the difficulties that we faced. Let me also mention vocational guidance, or broadly understood job placement. This is also an important element from the point of view of students. So, for example, apprenticeships that are paid for, vocational career counseling, etc. Now, did those projects contribute to a change? Well, we can assess that during the durability of the project period, and this is what we have now. And from that perspective, I can say that the activities taken have been valuable. Like, for example, vocational guidance or counseling became a regular part of our activities. And this is like an onboarding activity for the first-year students. During the project, we just had 2 vocational counselors. Now we have many more. The number is growing. So in the durability period, this activity can develop. Well, I could be talking endlessly, so please interrupt me. Okay, thank you. Well, if I may, Małgorzata, because Edyta touched upon 2 elements very close to my heart. One of them is that you've said that the projects that you implemented or the underlying ideas were based on the university's strategy. So you expanded the strategy or strengthened the strategy. Many of our beneficiaries tend to forget that. And durability. This is also an important element. These projects, the funds are available here and now. We have to remember that we need to invest these funds. So it may turn out that the current financial perspective will be the last one. So really, we need to invest in something that will survive, that will be sustainable. I mean, the university should be an accessible place, not only here and now, but also when all the projects are over. Well, Marcin, could you please comment on the older financial perspective? From the point of view, on the one hand, of the head of the EdTech group that creates to show trends in education, but also the company that cooperates with universities that also supports the development of the area. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. Let me add that I've also been a member of the Power Monitoring Committee, so I also participated in the development of the criteria for the financial perspective. So all parties learned the solutions. So from the point of view of entities dealing with digital education, we believe that the National Center for Research and Development has really professionalized the process of consultation. So the universities have more time to get ready for the process. And thanks to that, projects are better prepared, they are of higher quality. And I think that this is of importance, and for this, on behalf of our community, I would like to thank you. What is also important is what has been mentioned here, the approach to project implementation and treating it as a lever for the development. Now, what if in several years' time the EU funds run out and the financing mechanisms will change? More reimbursable instruments will be used. This is also an element showing you how to build the university strategy. We know that right now we have lower funds available. So the competition under the current financial perspective will be higher. The conditions, on the other hand, are narrower. So this will be a big challenge for both public and non-public institutions. We know that we have 0.5 billion euro less in the system. Yes, so this will not be a simple continuation. If I may join in the thanks to the National Center for Research and Development, let me say that the financial perspective, which is now coming to an end, has taught us a lot. I'm talking about the point of view of the university, but I also see that the National Center for Research and Development has also contributed to many good things. I would like to mention flexibility that they demonstrated. Generally, that intermediary authorities demonstrated during the COVID-19 pandemic, so flexibility and good understanding of the problems that we faced. Since the very beginning, I have said that the project, a successful project, results from joint work between the institutions and the beneficiary. So both parties bear responsibility. So I've noticed willingness to cooperate and flexibility. The green and red forms have been introduced when we started the implementation of the integrated university development programs. And thanks to all that, the projects were pretty efficient. Let me mention one more thing, the verification of the payment applications. This is a very quick process. This is something that really makes us, the beneficiaries, very happy. because as a result, the process of project implementation is just easier, despite the challenges. While you've mentioned red and green colors, there was the time when the National Center for Research and Development was marked in red when the time to verify the applications have been shown. But this also shows that intermediary authorities can also change as the process goes and seek solutions. We're also saying that because maybe the COVID-related solutions should be made a permanent part of the system. Now, we don't have the legal basis for that, like, for example, to improve the flexibility of projects and speeding up certain deadlines. But since that was possible during the pandemic and the projects were implemented in an even more efficient manner, so the postulate would be to keep these solutions under the new financial perspective.
Anna will certainly want to comment on it some way, but let's start talking about the new perspective. Where are we at the moment? Because some of you mentioned it before, because things are different than they used to be. We have less money, competition is higher between universities. The fact that you have just obtained a positive, successful evaluation does not mean that everything's okay. So I think we can now smoothly proceed to the discussion of what happened in the new perspective, because NCB, the first program, you were the first organization that announced the competition, and now you have the first results. Yes, we've announced a competition for the competitive recruitment. There have been 5 such recruitments. Non-competitive ones were also done, because the National Agents for Academic Exchange and the Ministry of Education did it. So in the old nomenclature of a competition, non-competitive recruitments. So the first recruitment or competition was the education for different disciplines, the different branches, and universities opened new departments or directions of studies, and they, so to speak, produced experts for these, not just engineers, there could be sociologists and many other experts, professionals. And that was a closed recruitment. Then the recruitment for the improvement of the competence of didactic personnel, teachers. One of the modules that was added to it was the improving the competences of the faculty. So the modification of the direction of study should also include improving the competence of the university teachers. But there was a separate competition to improve the competences of faculty. It was kind of a test for us as well, because the EU Commission stressed it very strongly that the funds would go to improving of the faculty's competences. But we knew that it would not be so easy to persuade the faculty to take part in such competitions. They did have some problems with reaching the required competence indicators, so we tried to find a way to do it in a more successful and efficient way. whether it would be good to dedicate it to some selected group of faculty people, or perhaps we should better give support to the whole faculty members. Well, it's good to know for those universities which did not get funding at this stage. Yes, we also have new study directions opened to serve the needs of the national economy, and there was also recruitment for the short support forms so that the universities could open to the plans of improving the competence of the faculty. That is going to be an interesting proposal. And finally, we've got the first recruitment from the accessibility area. And please note that this competition is quite high. I will now give you some numbers. The Blanche Coach needs 200 million zlotys was allocated. 90 applications were submitted. A total 680 million zlotys, much more than the allocated money. So the 71 applications were accepted. 26 are being negotiated because 26 applications would consume the allocation of 200 million zlotys. Now, the allocation, the recruitment that was closed at the end of October, the allocation was 500 million zlotys, training for the national economy. 200 were submitted out, and they totaled 1,800,000,000. On Thursday, we will finally evaluate these projects. So it's more than three times more than the allocated money. This is very important because at the last meeting we talked to the representatives of the universities, and the first conclusions were to be drawn at that time. So although they were free to define the amounts they wanted, because universities may support one, two, or more directions, but we will anyway try to introduce some limit so that the universities will have to choose the priority projects, not go for all of the possible projects. You cannot support everything, can you? So I understand that it's going to be the maximum value of the project. That's going to be a criterion of the competition. Yes, we are considering it. One of the universities said that, well, this would be a good thing to do. It's because you cannot support financially every possible project. Have to select. So what do you think about the latest developments, the ranking lists, and all that happened in this new perspective? Being a member of our board and an active participant of all these debates, you were giving opinions on these criteria. So on the Leviatan's side, these proposals to introduce some limits on the maximum project value were not discussed, but yes, we would have to know what was the average project value, how many projects were actually accepted and how many of them were worth more than 10 million. But this seems to be a good approach because more universities will then probably get this funding. Many more universities or other entities would get some support, financial support. Among those competitions that were recently held, it was very good that you wanted to add to it the cooperation with the business sector, with the organizations of employers, because that would certainly make an input of high value. So this proposal to support and to promote such a cooperation, yes, we believe this is the right thing to do. Please keep in mind, and all of you should remember, that the union money also goes to the regions, not only at the national level. A lot of union funds goes to the regional programs like the Silesian province. The whole regional project is over 5 billion euros in that province, and now they are taking part in the competition of universities, and they can apply for support on support to the teaching qualities improvement. So we should try to reach for the union funds which are present at the provincial level. Edyta, what is your evaluation of this new perspective? Well, I must say that, I will speak about the practical side from the perspective of an applicating entity, the entity that applies for it. And for project that was luckily qualified for the negotiation stage. So we saw the ranking list, and as Anna said, 20% of the schools get the support. It was no wonder, because we knew what the allocation was like. But yes, we found that this perspective is different than the previous one, because first of all, this was our first experience, and the process, application process is different from the application form, and the guidelines are different. So we had, at first moment, we thought that we had some dilemmas to solve and some challenges to face, but from our perspective, the most difficult thing was to plow through all these program documents, the rules, the horizontal guidelines, etc., the instructions on how to fill in the application. All that was a bit different, a bit new to us. So from the practical point of view, yes, that was a real challenge. You thought you had enough experience, but suddenly you have no experience because it's a new thing to you. Yes, so we had to kind of forget the old experience and now do this one with an open mind and go through all these programmatic documents like they were totally new to you. A little trouble was that the instruction wanted us to provide a lot of information within 3,000 characters. It seems easy, but it is not. And a lot of challenges this single instruction caused. But what was, and I want to stress it very strongly, a situation in which allowed us to get into the negotiation stage was the local information system. Before that, we negotiated in a completely different way, but now digitization is everywhere, it's present everywhere. All the intermediate institutions also use digital solutions. So this system allows us to negotiate in a very efficient way. There is an evaluation chart, and we can always have access to it. And I think it's very good, practical, and nice that there is also some space for making comments and notes and remarks during the negotiation process. So it's a negotiation between partners. Before this was never seen before. So such a flexibility in the new perspective is something I hope will help us a lot. But what I'm worried about is, and I share Marcin's opinion, that we should diversify the sources, and you should look for other sources, not just fair, but other sources exist in the ministries, in the international organizations. You can get funding from the EU directly or from the regions. So you need to think it over very well and use the European funds to develop.
Well, certain recommendations of changes have already been given here. I would like to appeal to those of you who encounter such barriers, like the number of characters in individual fields, which makes it impossible to properly fill in the form, application form. Please give this information to the National Center for Research and Development. In our group, we are also going to take a look at these, because it's not that the center creates this system independently. Intervention from the Ministry of Regional Development and funds is needed. So the more comments we get, the bigger the chance that this system will be corrected, because it should be adjusted to your needs. Yeah, I thought about after what Edyta has said, because you've devoted quite a lot of time for the preparation, analysis of documents, etc. And I think that what is of key importance is to receive information in advance about the future contests to be or competitions to be announced, because right now it's more difficult. You need to involve a bigger team. You have to analyze more documents. So you have to devote more time to the preparation of a good project. Because the whole competition is higher. So I think that the universities from Lewiatan Confederation would like to have a longer consultation process. It would be good to receive the information in advance, much in advance, what plans you have as far as the new competitions are concerned. Yes, I would like to support that, because recently we've faced certain overlapping dates for competitions announced by the National Center for Research and Development. Let's remember that universities also have their working schedules, and that recent situation was very unfortunate, causing additional problems. I know that the action plan has been prepared already, and I hope that this will make our application process easier, which in turn will lead to the preparation of better projects. Because my last thought after our first experiences is that the projects have to be very good. Being good is not enough. They have to be prepared very well. The content has to be given in compliance with the instructional expectations, because we can see that there is a big competition. So these are the first recommendations. Predictable schedule of competitions next year, because sometimes at your request, the schedule, well, is adjusted to the situation. As an example of this adjustment, let me mention the prolonged competition as a result of the discussion within our council. The impulse was to discuss the micro-confirmations. They are going to be reflected in the current competition. So the situation is that when you see what the competition is going to concern, you may have additional questions, etc. So what else would you like to point out too? We have certain recommendations that can be given now, or maybe there are some recommendations that we should start discussing in the context of the so-called midterm review, which is going to be implemented under each program. So it's not that some new money will be available in the system, but it may turn out that there will be areas from which funds can be reallocated to other areas. We'll have this midterm review in 2025, and recently we've also been informed that we have this allocation given in euro, and we have expenditures in Polish zlotys. The Polish zloty the zloty exchange rate is going up now, so recalculated into zlotys, the budget is even smaller. So we don't fully know how much money there is in the system, finally. But of course, there may be some corrections in the system. We're going to intensely discuss it at the next Lumen conference. But I think the time has come now to try to formulate certain postulates. We should start thinking how to have enough time to collect data and arguments. So if I could ask all of you for recommendations for the changes that can be implemented here and now, but also those that are more long-term. Well, let me say, from my perspective and from the perspective of the business, I think that green teaching or green education would be a good idea, to educate students in green professions. Of course, here we can use modern technologies. So if we establish new faculties to get people prepared for the green transformation, we should also use digital technologies. In Lewiatan, we have quite a lot of studies and reports related to changes on the labor market in connection with the green transformation. And of course, the assumption is that universities should also be ready for the green transformation. As a representative of a university, well, we actually stick to one topic, digitization. That was the leading thought of this year's conference. It's something that is of great importance. The distant or remote learning systems, this is something that is very important for us. I think that the pandemic has specifically demonstrated certain needs. Previously, we were not fully aware of what we need, but I think this awareness has grown, and Well, this is the voice what I've heard from many universities. Another thing is to strengthen the managerial staff. This is also very important. I think that this is a very important aspect which has been emphasized many times by the universities, and this is the direction that should be taken, in our opinion. And I think that these are two most important things that we would like to say. And the last thing, which may be the right course, the complexity. Well, this is my opinion only, but my conviction is that a complex approach to projects, like, for example, to educate people to be able to be useful for the economy, strengthening the skills of students at modified faculties, and this complexity that we've had is the right direction, in my opinion. Well, instead of postulate, let me respond to the postulates that have been put forward. If we're talking about greening, or improvement of digital and green skills, these are the elements that have been emphasized during the negotiations with the European Commission. So these are the skills that are supposed to be taught. So the idea is very appropriate. It has to be thought over. As for complexity, undoubtedly it will be there, and we also emphasize it because it's probably easier for universities to implement projects in this way, and it's easier to apply this strategy. So yes, and digital competencies or skills, also improvement of managerial staff skills, and digitization. We're not moving away from digitization. I mean, yes, in management, to an extent, this would be true, but as for teaching, education, etc., money will be available. So, one more sentence of recommendation from each speaker. Just one piece of advice, one recommendation, and who it is directed at. Well, of course, two universities that are future beneficiaries. I'm going to keep repeating. Everything should be strategy-based and related to the local labor market and the needs of the local economy and the economy of the whole country. So definitely. And complexity. Complexity and complementarity, as the gentleman has mentioned, that it's using sources other than those offered by the National Center for Research and Development. Also, regional programs offer some funds. Well, I've already formulated recommendations, so I can only thank the National Center for Research and Development for listening to universities and reacting to our requests. And I think that this is the right course. I think that the exchange of thoughts and experience is something that we should be guided at. And we should all bear in mind that the project is our joint work, and I think that this is the most important thing, to keep this course. Yeah, let me just add, well, cooperation once again, cooperation with the market, with the suppliers, with your universities, and this can be translated into good projects. Thank you very much.